Welcome to another powerful conversation in the Hidden to Heard series, where we honor the untold and the beautiful real stories of women who lead from the heart. Today, I am truly, no, let me say that again. I am truly excited to welcome Ali Mapletoft. Ali's work, and you'll hear more about this, is rooted in creativity and visionary empowerment. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you so much, Abby. I feel very honoured to be included in that group of women because I know that there are some incredible people that you've been interviewing. So thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really pleased that you're here, and I know that we're going to have a really just a beautiful, rich conversation today. But before I go into the questions, let me just share a bit more about Ali with our audience. So, Ali Mapletoft, I love this line. Right, I'm going to start again. Ali Mapletoft needs creativity like she needs air. Love that. A multidisciplinary artist, creative director, and creative consultant, Ali's own creative work exudes a potent feminine energy infused with myth and theatricality. Ali's public speaking and consultancy work focuses on revolutionising the way industry, education, and healthcare view creativity as a vital tool for a healthy society. Oh, Ali, I love that. I am so looking forward to what unfolds with this conversation that we're having. So I guess my first question, because let's dive straight in, is what's your journey? Like what's brought you to this place where you're a champion of creativity?
Oh, Abby, this is a big question, and I love this question. And at the same time, my brain just goes, wow, how long have you got? Because it's a big story, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like really, really lucky, really, really privileged to have had the background that I have had that has led me to where I'm at with my creativity and my relationship with my creativity. And the first thing that I want to say before I dive into who I am and where I came from and how this came about was every single person is creative. So let's just take that
Yeah.
as the bedrock here.
Mhm.
Now, when I say that I'm super lucky to have had the background that I have, I really, 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 truly mean this.
Mm.
I was very lucky to be raised in a beautiful, very small country in southern Africa called Lesotho, which is mispronounced as Lesotho
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time because that's how it's spelled. And this is a small country that's landlocked by South Africa. So, in the midst of South African apartheid, you had this island,
Mm.
an integrated, mixed, multiracial community, and an enclave for freedom fighters, artists, writers whose books were banned,
Yeah.
anybody who could not be in South Africa during apartheid
I love
was in
this.
Lesotho or
Yeah.
Botswana or Zimbabwe.
Mm.
When things got difficult in those places, more people came to Lesotho. So I was brought up in the most incredibly creative and revolutionary space. And what that meant was that I always understood that words, pictures, stories, songs have power.
Yes.
Because if they don't have power, why were they banned over the border just a mile away,
Yeah.
right? So that's the bedrock. That's where I'm coming from. And I truly believe that every single person is deeply creative at their core.
Yes.
And that some of us have retained that, accessed that, reclaimed that,
Mm.
maybe always been able to honor it, and some of us find it more difficult. And then some of us will go through phases in life where we can access that creativity, and we'll go through other stages where it's very difficult to access it, but it's always there.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I love that answer. I love the way in just which you not only shared your upbringing, but the themes of the times that you were living in Lesotho and how that has kind of helped map out and create who you're becoming today. And so I guess. My next question is, and this was around a little bit that we touched on about your sort of focusing on revolutionizing the way industry, education, and healthcare view creativity. And so I'm just interested in that whole thing around how do you see that creativity can help to save lives? I think this is really interesting.
There's so many ways, and because there's so many ways, it's difficult to know where to begin.
Mm,
But I'm going to give you a couple of very, very tangible examples
yes.
where I've seen it unfold in real time.
Yeah.
One example comes from healthcare.
Hmm.
When my daughter was very little, she was 14 months old, she
Mm,
had an anaphylactic reaction for the first time to peanuts. She's allergic, like really allergic to peanuts.
yeah.
We didn't know that, and this happened for the first time. And it was very, very scary. She was struggling to breathe, and we called an ambulance. And we were so lucky here in Brighton that one arrived within 2 minutes
Wow.
and whisked us
Excellent.
off to the hospital.
Yeah.
Now, when we got to the hospital, it became apparent to me how very serious it was because we were taken to an emergency room and more and more and more paramedics and doctors kept arriving with more equipment. That's when you know it's really serious.
Yeah.
And I said to one of the paramedics, "Is she going to be okay?" And he said, "I'm sorry, I can't tell you that." So I was like, right, this is really, really serious. And I was in shock. So I was almost in a state of otherworldliness where
Mm,
you know it's a
mm,
panic, but you go into this extreme calm.
yeah.
She wasn't. My daughter was panicking, scared. She's too young
Yeah.
to articulate herself. She's really panicking. And in that moment, one of the paramedics said to me, "Did you breastfeed her?" And I said, "Yes." He said,
Mm,
"Okay, you're going to hold her to your chest in the breastfeeding kind of position, and you're going to sing her favorite lullaby. What do you sing to her when she's going to sleep?" So
mm,
I'm there holding her to my breast, singing Row, Row, Row the Boat.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
was creative thinking.
Yes.
What that did was bring
Yeah.
her heart rate down because the sense of safety that she felt when she was held in that
Mm,
way and
mm,
when she was sung that song gave her just enough regulation to bring the heart rate down. So that's a very practical and tangible way
yeah.
that I've seen creative thinking on the part of the paramedic help to save somebody's life. There is no
Yeah.
question in my mind that that was a life-saving situation. They
Yeah.
needed to get that under control very quickly. So that's
Yeah.
a tangible example from
Yeah.
healthcare.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I mean,
Thank
I
you.
could go on, Abby. I could go on. There's so many instances.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, it saves our lives both physically,
Mm,
spiritually,
yeah.
philosophically. Because if
Yeah.
we don't have creativity, if we don't have art, if we don't have beautiful music to listen to, if we don't tell each other stories, like, who even are we?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
We
We are our
become
stories.
We are, and we become, I think, what I would
Mm,
call spiritually and creatively bankrupt
yeah.
if there's no space for that creative expression to happen.
Yeah.
And we see that with authoritarianism. In 2012,
Hmm.
a militant group linked to Al Qaeda tried to stop all music and dance
Mm,
and expression in northern Mali. They burnt guitars, they smashed up recording studios,
mm,
removed musical instruments, they banned the singing and the closed down radio stations. Why did they do
mm.
that? Because they wanted to take away the voice
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
people of northern Mali, which is a very powerful and strong voice. And
Yeah.
so that ultimately failed. But we know that creativity is such an inherent life force when we
Yeah.
see who tries to quell and quash that creativity.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for sharing with us the example of you and your daughter. And when you were actually saying, when you put your daughter to your breast, and what happened afterwards, I kind of just felt a chill go through my body. Like that was visceral. And so beautifully raw and real example of creativity in its finest, one of its finest moments.
Mm.
Um, and I think that the next thing, and even on the example that you gave, which I had no idea about in terms of northern Mali, and that's one example. I know that you, Ali, will have many more similar things that play out that we never get to hear about, that are purposely kept hidden because they don't want these things to be heard. And so I guess when you talk about creativity from this stance point, like why don't more people know about this or maybe kind of even think that this is creativity?
I think this is a really interesting question, and I don't want to be too reductive.
Hmm.
And yet, there's a part of my mind that really honestly believes that it's because of our obsession with productivity, which is, you know, a product of an industrialized society, which is a product of a colonial society. You know, all of the things, it's
Yeah,
all linked together. It is all intrinsically linked together. And when we look at
yes,
so many cultures around the world, they didn't separate art from science. They didn't separate history from dance and music and
yeah,
sculpture. It was all
yeah.
intertwined. And then we have this focus on productivity that really comes into force in the 18th, 19th, and 20th century, where
Mm,
productivity is king. And
yeah,
we begin to educate people that productivity is more important than creativity, that logic is more important than spirituality or magic, or however you want to define the
yeah,
intangible.
yeah.
And so we lose this incredible connection with something that is so human and so
Mm,
vital in the name of productivity.
yes, yeah. That makes so much sense when you kind of put it into timelines. And this is one of many times when you put it into timelines, it's like you can visually see and how that happened over time,
Mm.
um, and how, productivity in a different way is still the thing, but actually none of it can happen without creativity. Like
No,
it,
none of it at all can happen without creativity. And yet, if we look at the particular time in history when, you know, Europeans went out into the world to conquer and to convert people,
yes, yes,
that was a time of Puritanism, and
yes.
we can trace
Puritans.
um, the fear of anything flamboyant, anything colorful,
Mm,
anything expressive, anything loud, all the way back to the values
yeah,
that existed during those times. We can look at the Salem witch hunts. We can look
yeah,
at,
yes,
um, Matthew Hopkins, Witchfinder General, who was
yeah.
operating around Nottingham and around the UK, who was actually paid to root out the witches.
Mm,
These guys were
mm,
wearing black cloaks, long,
yes,
tall, severe black hats. They were stoic, they were serious, they didn't have any color.
yeah,
So actually
yeah.
what we see is that we're still carrying a shadow of this idea that it is dignified
Mm,
to reject things like color and expressiveness.
yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that reminder. And I guess my next question, like Ali, I know because I've actually seen your work and I know people that have taken part in your beautiful, expressive, colorful, powerful feminine energy pieces of art. But really, your work radiates a powerful feminine energy, which is rich with myth and theatric. I've got to get this word right. Theatricality. Thank you.
You
But
brilliant.
it's a
It's a bit of
beautiful
a
word.
mouthful. It's a bit of a mouthful.
But we got there. But before your voice and I guess your vision took center stage, like, was there a time when you felt unseen or unheard in your artistic creative journey?
Yeah, and I think that it's repeated itself through a cycle a couple of times. And I think that people who will relate to this will be people who, for whatever reason, have felt like an outsider.
Yeah,
So, for me, growing up in a very rural part of a very small African country, like really out in the countryside,
yes,
um, it's very clear that I was very other,
yeah,
you know, compared to other people around. I was very, very other.
yeah,
And there are pros and cons to that. And if you are growing up inside a culture that isn't your own or your parents' own culture,
yes,
but you don't know any different. So I had never been to the UK. I
yeah,
didn't properly
absolutely.
didn't properly come to the UK until I was 16. So
Yeah,
you're in a culture which your parents are telling you is not home. And
yeah,
then the culture around you is telling you you're not from here. And many, many people I know that grew up in the UK who are maybe second, third generation from somewhere else had that experience kind of like in the inverse. And it's not
yes,
it's not exactly the same. I want to qualify that. It's not exactly the same
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
a black child to grow up in London and a white child to grow up in the middle of the countryside in Africa. It's not exactly the same. But where there are some parallels, I think
yeah,
is the feeling of I'm not really from here, but I'm not really from there either.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and so there was definitely a time where I began to develop a consciousness of that
Okay, yeah.
because art was my anchor. I wasn't a popular kid. I wasn't cool. I was
Mm,
like, I was like the chubby white girl who's like can draw. Like
yeah,
I just wasn't a popular kid or anything like that. That was my armor. I can draw,
yes,
right? So I
yeah,
can be friends with you because I can draw a tattoo on your arm, or I can help you decorate your school book or whatever.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
was quite introverted, really. And I think for me, living in the Basutu culture
Hmm.
and trying to almost find or cosplay or simulate my European artistic roots somehow was very difficult.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
wasn't even sure why I needed to do you know what I mean? Like, why do I even need to do that?
yeah,
But there's almost a calling in you, and maybe it comes from your family that you need to remember some of your roots. So we had
yes,
a lot of art books at home and we had a lot of poetry books. So, we would be shown like English poetry, and at school it'd be like English poetry or French art or, all of
yeah,
this stuff.
yeah,
And I had not even been to Europe. So this was
yeah.
alien to me.
And,
And yet at the same
mm,
time, I'm told that this is my
yes,
culture or my people or something. So that was a confusing time
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to find that voice
yeah.
as a young artist. And I ended up just being completely obsessed with the artist Toulouse-Lautrec, who
Hmm.
painted the cabaret girls in the Moulin Rouge in Paris.
Okay,
So he painted sex workers and
yeah,
dancers. That's what he did.
yeah, beautiful.
He had a disability. He was from a very aristocratic family. I think he may have been a person who was born with dwarfism, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah,
And so he felt like an outsider and he escaped into his art. And there was something about that I could relate to.
yeah, absolutely.
So I became obsessed with this French artist, and I would do replicas after replicas of this French artist's work, which then translated later into the way that I draw women, I think.
Right.
And then
Okay.
at the same time, there were cave paintings on the mountains depicting
Yes.
from the San people,
Yeah.
depicting incredible figures with like long, spindly legs and bows and
Mm.
arrows and herds of animals. So it was all seeping in.
Yeah.
But it's that finding of that, what is my voice? Does my voice even have to be something to do with my culture? Or does
Yeah.
it or does it not? You know, there's that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think that came full circle when I came to the UK at the age of 16.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, let's find the voice again.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
can remember being very clearly told by a tutor at art college when I started to tell her about my story growing up in Africa and the things I'd experienced. She just turned around to me and said, nobody wants to hear about that here.
Wow. Huh.
Very, very like nobody wants to hear those kind of stories. And she said this to me. She said, in Europe, nobody wants to hear those kind of stories. I was like,
Wow.
wow. So to be
Wow.
told that so young, you're like,
Yeah.
well, what stories do you want to hear? And I think that that almost became another sort of hurdle where it's like, okay, do I need to cosplay
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just being like the normal British teenager? Because I'm not.
Yes, because you're not, you weren't,
I'm
and you
not.
know.
Yeah.
I love that. I thank you. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because you were navigating so many different layers of the cake, when you came to England and then thereafter. Um, but I love the way that the circles, the layers have all kind of led you to having this conversation, this rich conversation that we're having now. And I just think it's very interesting in that, we share. I was raised in Sussex by a white working class family. And then when we met and we had our very first conversations, it was like a total crossover. And that's
Mm,
why I knew this was going to be such a rich conversation. Because experiences irrelevant are, it's where we belong, it's the identity that
mm.
that we choose for ourselves ultimately. And I think what I'm hearing from what you're saying is you get to make that choice. You get to choose who you are becoming and what it is that you want to do out there in the world, which is what you're doing so beautifully now. So, my last question is for the woman who's listening, who still feels hidden or unsure right now, like what simple truth or step would you offer to her?
It sounds really simple, but just create something. And this is really, really simple to do. We don't have to create a masterpiece every day. We don't
Mm,
even have to put pressure on ourselves to create a masterpiece in a lifetime. You know, every time you cook a meal or change the way a room in your house is, or put together an outfit, or decide how you want to do
mm,
your hair, or any of these small decisions that we make, these are opportunities to express creativity.
yeah.
And if you feel judged or worried that people are going to judge you for that expression of your creativity, you might be right. You might be right.
Mm,
They might judge you. And the invitation is to just nudge yourself a little bit further than your comfort zone anyway.
yeah.
Um, you know, it's in many ways, it's easy for me to say, and I will acknowledge the layers of privilege that I have that allow me to say this, but I feel like we need to proceed until apprehended.
Mm,
So, you
mm,
know, if you want to show up to work with pink woven into your head. Do it and see what happens. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe you will get
Yeah.
judged. Maybe somebody will disapprove of you, but maybe not. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah.
And this is very, very personal, and it's very, very emotional for people because people have been judged
Yeah.
and people have been punished and people have been told you can't do that. And
Mm,
people have been told you can't wear that and you can't say that and you can't sing that loudly. And the only person who's really going to give you permission to do it anyway is yourself.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What a beautiful answer. Beautiful and truthful and honest. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And before I ask where people can find you, you've really kindly offered a gift. So we're going to put all of your contact details on kind of at the bottom of the show so that people can see where they can connect. But the gift is that they could share a creative story in Ali's book.
I would absolutely love this so much. And I really encourage the person who thinks that they are not creative, especially you, whoever you are, if you think that you are not creative, I especially encourage you to share a story with me. And I really don't mind how small or specific or mundane you think your story is. This doesn't have to be a story of how you, I don't know, overcame being in a coma or anything like that. It really doesn't have to be that big.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
if you think that your story about creativity is too small and too irrelevant, it probably isn't. And
yeah,
I would love to hear it. I am currently writing a book, and the
yeah,
working title of that book is Creative Oxygen. I'm
yeah. Ooh,
collecting stories, and I would absolutely love to be able to hear your story to be included in the book.
I love that. Thank you. What an opportunity. So yeah, thank you so much. And Ali, if people want to find out more about you, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
You can find me at alimapletoft.com, and you can find me on Instagram at alimapletoft_artist. And all my other links will link from there on Instagram.
Okay. I already knew it was going to be a very rich conversation, and it absolutely was, and it didn't disappoint, and I knew that it wouldn't. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your story, where you're at, the work, the offer of the gift for somebody else to share their story, which I think is beautiful. I mean, look at that. It just rolls and waves, doesn't it? So from me to you, Ali, it's been an honor and a blessing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Abby. I've really enjoyed it.